So let us take a few more questions in database, rest of the top 50. So the question is, define join and enlist it types. There are various joins: normal join, natural join, outer join, inner join. So join helps in explaining the relationship between different tables. When you join them, because you are there are various tables, right? There will be possibility that you will be trying to combine them, and you will want that a query, we present a query or fire a query on these two tables, which the results are coming from both the tables. For that, first you have to join them. So join helps in explaining the result or relation between different tables, and they also enable you to select data with relation to data in another table. They also enable you to select data with relation to data in the another table. That's what I explained, that there are two tables or different tables which you want to combine the query, and then the answer should come. There are various types of these joins. This is inner join. So the blank rows are left in the middle while more than equal to two tables are joined. While in outer join, this is divided into left outer join and right outer join. The blank rows are left at the specified side by joining tuples in other side. That is, we're talking about the null and null values actually. Then the other joins are cross joins, natural joins, equi-join, non-equi-join. What do we mean by index hunting? Index hunting. So indexes help in improving the speed. Index help because in a book you have index, so that just by viewing the index you know where to go. So index helps in improving the speed as well as query performance of database, So the procedure of boosting the collection of indexes is termed or named as index hunting. How does index hunting help in improving query performance? As we have just suggested that it will improve the performance of query. So index hunting helps in improving the speed as well as query performance of the database. These are the measures that are achieved to do that. First, the query optimizer is used to coordinate the study of queries with the workload, and best use of queries are suggested based on this. Index the query distribution is along with their performance is observed to check the effect. And the tuning of database to a small collection of problem queries is also recommended. What are the disadvantages of query? First of all, the query has no indexes, and stored procedures are excessively compiled, and the triggers and procedures are without the set no count on, and complicated joins making up inadequately written query. Also, the cursor and temporary tables, they showcase a bad presentation. Next is enlist way to efficiently code transaction. For efficient code transaction, so there are ways to efficiently do the code transaction. First is user input should not be allowed while transaction. While browsing, transaction must not be open of data. Transaction must be kept as small as possible, and the segregation levels of the transaction, the lower transaction should have some segregation levels, and least information of data must be accessed while transacting. What is executive plan? Executive plan can be defined as SQL Server caches collected procedure or the plan of query execution, and user thereafter by the subsequent call. So an important feature in relation to performance enhancement is this. Data execution plan can be viewed textually or graphically. This is the executive plan. Define the B trees. B trees and B plus trees are always asked. This is a data structure which is a form of tree which stores sorted data and searches, inserts, sequential access, and deletions. These are allowed in the logarithmic type. Only logarithmic type. Differentiate table scan from index scan. Iterating over all the table rows is called the table scan, while iterating over all the index item is the index scan. What do we mean by fill factor concept with respect to the indexes? What do you mean by fill factor concept? Fill factor can be defined as being that value which defines the percentage of left space on every leaf level page that is to be packed with data. 100 is the default value of fill factor. Define fragmentation. Fragmentation can be defined as database feature of server that promotes control on data which is stored at table level by the user. The next is differentiate, nested loop, hash join, merge join. See, this nested loop is actually loop inside a loop. So you can have a loop, like for example, if I give this for loop, and inside that for loop you have a for loop, and inside that loop you have a for loop. So we say that this is the nested loop. So the outer loop within an inner loop is formed consisting of few entries, and then for the individual entry. So inner loop is individually processed. For example, select call one star, call two star from call one, call two, where call one dot call two is equal to call two dot call two. This is just an example. So it's a processing which takes place in this way. For I, this is a loop. Okay, select star from column 1 loop, and for j, this is again star, and results are displayed. So you have a loop inside a loop, that is the nested loop. So the steps of nested loop are: first you have to identify outer table, that is the driving table, and then inner table, that is the driven table. Assign inner table to the outer table, and for every row of outer table, it accesses the rows of inner table. So nested loops is executed from the inner to the outer as outer loop, inner join, and hash join. So while joining these large tables, we use the hash join, which is preferred. So algorithm of hash join is divided into: first you have build, that is it is a hash table having in memory which is present on the smaller table, while the probe, this hash value of the hash table, is applicable for each second row element, and then the sort merge join. Then the two independent sources of data are then joined into sort merge join. So they perform, the performance is better as compared to the nested loop, and the data volume is big enough that is not good as hash joins generally. So the full operation can now be divided into two parts. First is sort join operation. We get first row R1 from the input 1, and we get first row R2 from the input 2. Then we merge. This is a merge join operation. So while it is not present at the either loop's end, so if R1 joins with R2, next row is got R2 from the input R2, and we return R1, R2. Else it goes to the next row. Next row is got from R1 from N2, else next row is got from R2. It is either from R1 or from R2, R1 from input 1 or R2 from input 2, and we end the loop. What is database partitioning? Division of logical database into independent complete units for improving the management, availability, and performance is called the database partitioning. So if you have a database, this is a logical division, no? So in logical division, if we divide the database into certain parts or manageable parts with certain reasoning which increase the performance also, this is called database partitioning. Explain the importance of partitioning. So splitting of one table which is larger table into smaller table entities. So logically is called the database partitioning, and we have just seen this is database partitioning. The benefits are to improve query performance in situation dramatically when the most of the rows which are heavily accessed are in one partition only. So why to use the other one? There is only one partition you can use, and this will increase the performance. And accessing the large parts of single partition, then also you need the partition. Then also one more aspect is there: slower and cheaper storage media can be used for data which is seldom used. Slower and cheaper storage media can be used for data which is seldom used. Define database system. DBMS, database system, or what is database system? We have learned about database, we have learned about database management system, but database system is different. DBMS along with the database is called the database system. What do you mean by query evaluation engine? Now when you give a query, there has to be some compiler, okay? There has to be some, or not compiler, but engine that could run it. So query evaluation engine execute the low level instruction that are generated by the compiler. So if DML is there or DDL is there, there is a DDL compiler or DML compiler. That compiler converts the instruction into low level instruction, and these low level instructions is taken by the query evaluation engine, and that is going to run actual query. What is DDL interpreter? DDL statements are interpreted and they are recorded in tables which are called metadata. Define the atomicity and aggregation. Atomicity, that is either full or none. So it's an all or none concept which enables the user to be assured of incomplete transaction to be taken care of. So the actions involving incomplete transactions are left undone in DBMS. Then aggregation, it collects the collected entities and their relationship are aggregated in this model. So it's mainly used in expressing relationship with the relationship, right? Relationship in within relationship. So aggregation is relationship within a relationship. L is the various transaction phases. So the transaction phases are: first is analysis, redo, and undo phase. Define object-oriented model. Compilations of objects made up this model, in which the values are stored within instance variables, which is inside the object. So the object itself comprises bodies of object for its operation, which are called methods, and objects containing some kind of variables and methods are called classes. Define entity. It is defined as being a thing or real life existence. So it is having an independent existence in the real world. What do you mean by entity type? The set of entries having similar attributes are called entity types. Define entity set. So compilation of all entries of any particular type of entry in the database is called the entity set. Next is, what do you mean by entity type extension? So compilation of similar entity, not all, but similar entity types into one particular type. Here see all entries, but here only similar entries in one particular type, which is grouped together, is an entity set. So these were the top 50 questions in database management system. Thank you so much. Take care.